Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Gypsy Roma Traveller History Month 2021. This is a short assembly that Mr. Leach has kindly asked me whether I would present for you. I don't know whether any of you are familiar with the slide that you see in front of you. It's a picture of a flag, and this is a flag that's used by Romani people around the world, whether they're from a Gypsy background, a traveller background, or from a Roma background. Central part of this is a 16-spoked wheel, which is also on some other flags around the world. And some of you might be familiar with the image of a wheel from India, which is where ethnically the Gypsy and the Roma population came from. The traveller population in Britain and Ireland are indigenous people to Britain and Ireland, and we would have learned a bit about them in our 21C assembly that you would have had last week, where you learned about nomadism and traveling around towns and cities and using skills. So today we're going to have a look at Gypsy Roma Traveller History Month. So some of you will have noticed that that flag that I've just mentioned is on the wheelchair that is attached to somebody that is presented on the mural that we've got in the link. Now, the mural is a fantastic piece of work and really inspiring. And the words above this man, his name is John Boy Smith, are ignite your ambition. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about John Boy Smith, because some of you won't know who John Boy is. Now, John Boy is local to here. He was born in Gravesend. He currently lives in Kent. And he had an accident when he was only a teenager, when he was 16 years old. He was accidentally shot when he was in a car, and it went through his spine. And that's meant that he was confined to a wheelchair. And part of his recovery, what he decided to do is he took up bodybuilding. And when he was become really strong, he realized that he was actually quite good at lifting weights, and he broke 2 British records in the bench press. He then started taking up javelin throwing from wheelchair, also shot put and discus. So he was a very competitive and athletic young man. And he was ranked #1 in the world at throwing the javelin from a wheelchair for his classification. And he was all prepared to throw javelin for Britain in the Rio Olympics, but they took javelin as a discipline out of the Olympics. So, wondering what he could do next, he decided to take up wheelchair racing instead. And he has become an incredibly successful wheelchair athlete, winning marathons around the world. And he's the silver medalist for marathon in the Commonwealth Games in 2018. And he's hoping to compete in Tokyo. And he's currently one of the highest ranked athletes for Paralympics in the world. So that's who John Boy Smith is, if you're wondering who this person is that's underneath the link. And it's really important for us to celebrate people from Gypsy, Roma, and traveller backgrounds. And as you'll have heard from 21C, Gypsy, Roma, and traveller people have been an important part of the history of particularly Belvedere and Erith. And just down the road, you'll go past the roundabout that's got a gypsy horse, which is down there. It's a cob, which some of you will be familiar with, to represent the important part that Gypsy, Roma, and traveller people have played in local history here. I just want us to think about how important and what an influence Gypsy, Roma, and traveller people have had around the world. Like, some of these world famous people are all from Gypsy, Roma, or traveller backgrounds. Joaquin Cortez is one of the world's top dancers. He performs flamenco, he performs ballet, absolutely incredible performer. Cheryl Lloyd, who's a singer. Elvis Presley was from a Gypsy, Roma, traveller background. Rita Hayworth. Picasso was from a Roma background. So all of these great artists, all of these great performers, all of these great celebrities that really rose to the tops of their professions and tops of their fields were all from Gypsy, Roma, and traveller backgrounds. And that's why it's really important to celebrate the achievements and the accomplishments of Gypsy, Roma, and traveller people from around the world and locally. These are some of my family. So ancestrally, my ancestors were all Gypsy, Roma, traveller people. They were from the New Forest, which is in Hampshire. And my family were chimney sweeps for generations. And these are just some of the pictures of people throughout my family history that perform these things. So Gypsy, Roma, traveller have been part of British society since the 1500s. And it's really important to, one, recognise where we've come from as people, to say that I'm proud of having these as my ancestors. So carrying on with our assembly this morning, these are some more of my ancestors. These are my great aunts, great uncles, my granddad, and all of these people served Britain in First World War, Second World War. One of my cousins that you see down in the bottom corner there is in a fireman's uniform, and he served in one of the local fire brigades. And we are Gypsy, Roma, traveller people are part of the fabric of society, part of just who we are as a people in Britain. And it's really important that we carry on recognising that throughout this Gypsy, Roma, Traveller History Month. So I want to introduce you to just a couple of people. This is Billy Wiggins. Billy Wiggins is a former student of mine from a different school, but very local to here in Orpington. Billy Wiggins is a PhD in physics, and Billy fell in love with physics when he was at school. He had an amazing physics teacher, and his physics teacher just encouraged that love and passion that Billy had for physics, and he went on to study physics at university. And while he was at university, in his second year, something happened to Billy. He was seconded. Now, seconded means somebody says, can you stop what you're doing for a minute and come and help us do something else? And the people that asked for Billy's help was something called CERN. Now, CERN were making something called the Hadron Collider, which is what was looking at how the universe is made. And it was looking at particle physics and atomic physics. And they invited Billy over there to work with them for a year. Billy carried on doing his degree, and then he decided to carry on studying even further, and he became a PhD in physics. And Billy now works in the City of London and has achieved amazing things in the world of science. I'd like to also just introduce you to another one of my former students. This is Ella Rutherford. Ella has represented England at football for pretty much every age category going up towards the adult game. Hopefully at some stage in the future, she'll represent the adult English team. She's currently playing for Charlton Athletic and has played for many teams, including Crystal Palace, Leicester, and she's back down in London at the moment. And another one of my former students, and Ella just had such dedication and commitment to the craft of football and practicing hard to achieve everything that she's managed to do as an individual. So having celebrated some of the aspects of what Gypsy Roma traveller people have accomplished, not only nationally, internationally, locally, the contributions that Gypsy Roma traveller people play in society as a whole, it's important to reflect back on some of history and why it's important that we recognise things in a Gypsy Roma traveller History Month. So, as I said before at the start of this assembly, Gypsy Roma traveller people have been part of our British culture since the 1500s. However, it's important to recognise how difficult that has been. And in 1554, Queen Mary I placed the death penalty on any gypsies that entered the country. And shortly after that, Queen Elizabeth I placed a penalty of death on any gypsy that didn't give up their way of life and become a settled member of British society and give up the ways of travelling that we would have heard about in our 21C lesson. Going forward in history quite a bit now to 1954, Encyclopedia Britannica is what we used to use before we had the internet. It was the source of all knowledge about all things. And this is something that you'd never find in Encyclopedia Britannica now. But in 1954, they said that gypsies have never accomplished anything of significance in writing, painting, music, science, or social organization. And I think when we reflect back on this assembly, we will see that that just isn't true. We've seen great accomplishments in science, in sport, in painting, in music, in social organization, and part of just the fabric of what it is to be British in today's society. And coming right up to date now, this was published in the Times newspaper just last month, saying that we should phase out ethnic minority rights of people who are not a race. And this is talking about Gypsy, Roma, traveller people. Well, actually, the Equalities Act 2010 says that you mustn't be discriminated against because of your race. And if you're a Gypsy or a traveller, you're protected against racial discrimination because of who you are. So it's really important that we support, we come alongside all of our fellow people that are from Gypsy, Roma, traveller backgrounds and stand up for their rights as part of just what it is to be British in a modern society. It's important that we are aware that there's a bill that's currently going through Parliament at the moment called the Police, Crime and Sentencing and Courts Bill, which will significantly impact travellers who maintain a nomadic way of life. And we should be aware of these things as things that affect Gypsy Roma travellers in modern day Britain. So that is taking us up to really this point of history. These are the things that you came up with in 21C to look at how we portray Gypsy, Roma and traveller in society. I'd like you to reflect back to some of the earlier slides that we had today of these portrayals of people in Gypsy, Roma, traveller society. I want you to think back to John Boyce Smith, who's on the walls of our school, to all of these famous people that were world leaders in their fields, to some of these people that have served Britain, to some of these people that are local, that have achieved amazing things in their lives and careers. It's certainly time for us as a school and as a society to celebrate Gypsy Roma Traveller History Month. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed this assembly. Thank you so much and goodbye.